Say thank you to those who work in the Indian River Medical Center. I know it's Cleveland Clinic, I think now, or whatever they're calling the name of it, but a year ago I was diagnosed with COVID and spent 4 days in the hospital, received tremendous care and help from the doctors, the nurses, the support staff. Very thankful for the work that's being done in our county.
That's great.
Thank you.
Father, we come before you this afternoon and just giving thanks that you have granted to all people on the earth what is called common grace, that we all have the ability to live, to breathe, to enjoy life, to have family. The things that oftentimes we take for granted, but these are granted by you, and we're just thankful. Your word says, your immutable word says that we are your people, and that you formed us from the dust of the earth, from the side of Adam, and you put your image upon us. And I pray that, Lord, as this meeting is conducted today, that you would grant wisdom and discernment, you would grant your favor upon this meeting as these who serve as stewards of the hospitals of our county would make wise decisions that would bring honor and glory to your name and would benefit and edify the people of this county. Thank you that you love us, you have died for us through your Son Jesus, and we give you praise and honor for that. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so
Very
much.
nice.
We
Thank you very
appreciate it.
much.
Michael?
Good speaking voice.
Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I hear a motion for the approval of the chairman's meeting minutes dated March 17th, the regular monthly meeting minutes dated March 18th, and an April disbursement of Mr. Jones?
$1,248,722.18.
So move.
There's a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you so much. First and foremost, I would like to welcome our new trustee here, Carrie Bartlett. Welcome to the group. We're very happy to have you here. Thank you. Yes.
It's a brave new world.
It's a brave new world, yes, it is. That's all good. I'm going to just move right along, and Jennifer, let's go through your district council report.
Okay, thank you. Again, as I do every month, I've responded to each of your questions as they've arisen pertaining to the various matters that come before me as the counsel for the district. Continue to review and maintain our annual deadlines and deliverables due under the lease with the hospital. Also, continue always to watch any active bills in session right now that may pertain to special districts and specifically hospital districts like ours. There are a few that we're watching, as I believe the board is aware, and Anne Marie's done a really great job of keeping us informed on that. Also, just kind of still working through the cleanup following the real estate transactions we did at the end of 2020 with the county, so that our documents accurately reflect those transactions. So working through that. And also with an outgoing trustee and an incoming trustee that we're so happy to welcome. We've been working on the bonding of Ms. Bartlett, and we also did a trustee orientation with her, Anne Marie and I, this month, and have been working to acclimate her and get her up to speed with our documents and our procedures. Anyone have any questions that I can answer at this time?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
All right, hearing none, we'll get into our financial statement. Alan Jones.
Okay, well, it won't surprise you to know that we remain in sound financial condition. Currently, there's about $12.7 million in cash and investments in our accounts as of March 31st. We expect another $900,000 by the end of the fiscal year from tax revenues. Total expenses budgeted for the remainder of the year amount to $6.7 million, of which $6.3 million is for our approved healthcare programs. The balance is for administration and other operating expenses. So it reinforces that our operating costs are relatively small relative to our primary mission, improving the health in the county. Of course, we just spent $1.2 million, a little over. So net of all this, we expect to finish the year with a peak of about $13.6 million in cash and investments. We'll spend about 7.9, including today's 1.2. And when we complete the fiscal year, we should have 5.7 million for contingencies. Given, of course, part of that we need to keep operating when the funds stop coming in. But given the COVID situation and its impact on health providers in this county and for that matter nationally, this puts us in a position to support health care as needed. An update on our investments with Water Walker. They've changed somewhat. In the past, our funds went temporarily into a qualified public deposit program. A little bit more about that later. And then shifted as soon as practicable into FDIC-insured CDs. This, however, has become impractical. Banks no longer have such demand for deposits. In fact, they're awash in deposits, principally because of the federal government's largesse with COVID relief programs, and a lot of that money has flowed straight into bank deposits. The paradoxical result of all this is that the bank deposits have increased in total substantially since the pandemic began. Lending by banks is up too, but not nearly as much as the deposits have grown. The result, banks have much less desire for CDs. Certainly, they're willing to take them, they're just not willing to pay for them. So about 2/3 of our money right now is in this qualified public deposit account, yielding very little, about 25 basis points or 1/4%. It's better than nothing, but it's a lot less than. But the qualified public deposit pools are authorized by Section 280 of Florida statute and essentially requires that banks that participate in the pool be eligible for FDIC insurance on their own and in addition post cash equivalent collateral to the state of Florida to adequately protect the public's funds that are on deposit in those banks. All this is overseen by Florida's chief financial officer. So in short, 2/3 of our funds are not FDIC guaranteed at the moment, but they are in deposits deemed safe by the state of Florida and appropriate for public funds deposits. Our interest income, therefore, will be down this year as we expected and predicted. The funds in the qualified public deposit pool are basically the same as if we deposited the sums greater than FDIC limits in the local bank, so the funds are safe. I just thought you ought to be updated to this slight change in character of how our investments are. If you got any questions, I'd be glad to answer them, but otherwise, that's my report.
There really is no alternative, right?
No,
Or is there?
there's not really. We could, no.
Okay.
Because we have to draw money down. And we will spend, as I went through, about 7.9 million, or the amount of money we have in the qualified deposit program, maybe not by coincidence, between now and September 30th. So you can't put it in anything and take it back that quick.
It has to be liquid.
Right.
So it has to be very liquid, so I don't think there's anything better for us to do. The remaining part, the money that we'll have to, as maybe reserves, is in CDs right now, which we can reclaim if we need.
What are the CDs?
Well, what? Oh, don't ask, could you?
I thought, you mean what are
What's
they?
the payout of the CDs?
We got in a little earlier, so all of them are, I think all of them, most of them are over 1%, but about 1. It's not exactly great, but it's better than 25 basis points, so.
Right.
But they're gonna mature, and so unless interest rates change, this will be a continuing issue for us.
The new world, that's right. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Alan? Okay, Executive Director Anne Marie Soriano.
Okay,
I think Kate is going to try to put up for you a couple of pictures from the Alma Lee Loy Memorial Garden that the district and the hospital worked on together. We did have a small dedication. They allowed, I think, 6 of us to be there. So Mary Beth and myself and Dr. Rosenkrantz, and a couple of others from the hospital, a photographer from the newspaper. So there should be a story coming out in the Vero News soon. And Alma Lee's goddaughter and niece, 2 of her family members that live here in Vero, were there as well. So one of them was able to speak for a little bit too. But what you see in front of you there is the garden, which is planted next to the right of the post chapel, right at the front of the hospital. That used to be a grass, just pretty much a solid grass area with a small what they used to call a butterfly garden. And they put the pavers through there. They placed our 4 benches that we talked about already a year ago, I think, placing there. And then all of those are indigenous to Florida plants, and many of which, much of which I think Alma Lee was always a big part of through McKee and other areas in the community. So if you have an opportunity soon, and then the next one I think was the stone that we had made and placed in there for the memorial. So it's really a beautiful place, and they did a great job. So if you have an opportunity to go through there, that's what is the result
said
of
that,
what we talked
while
about.
they even had it roped off before it was finished, there were people coming and sitting on the benches just because they liked it so much, so.
Yeah, and
That's
walking
nice.
through there. So yeah, even when they had the tape across before they were really completed with it. So I'm sure that people will use it. And then I'm just going to update a little bit. I attended last week the FASD, Florida Association of Special District quarterly meeting, which was primarily dedicated to the legislative session, as it typically is in April of every year. And we normally would have a half-day meeting, and then we would have the opportunity to go over to the Capitol and speak with our local legislators. But the Capitol is basically on lockdown, and everybody is working from home pretty much. And so we didn't get the opportunity to go do that. But Lewis Longman is the law firm for the Florida Association, and they did a really good update. And of interest to us lately has been this House Bill 1103 with the partner Senate bill, and it had already passed through the House and was ready for the Senate floor, and was ready for the Senate floor. FASD asked for them to make some amendments to that bill. It looks like it will pass, so it looks like it will go through. And the biggest effect for us is the fact that we have to do this performance review or performance audit. A couple of the changes which were already heard in the House and accepted, so need to now be heard in the Senate. Originally, that this performance audit was for hospital districts to happen in or be in effect October of '22. So that would mean within 9 months of that date, we would have to submit the results of that performance audit. They've moved that now out a year, so it won't take effect until October of '23. So that gives us some time to get our ducks in a row, if you will, and find someone. The other piece of that was that they were to submit a list to us of who we could choose to do these performance reviews, and we would have to choose from that list. They now have changed that to say that we can choose whomever we like. They have to have 5 years experience, and they have to have experience in performing these types of performance audits for like type and size of the local government or special district that they're reviewing. The other significant change was they redefined what a performance review, and there is a list of needs to cover and how that needs to cover and what we will need to produce in order to satisfy that. And so I have that list in the amendment, so I'll send that forward to you. I think there's little to no, they believe, and I believe as well by listening to their report, that there's little to no chance that it won't pass. So it will come through. But a lot of those requirements are things like us having benchmarks, proving our benchmarks, keeping a review that the organizations for us, the organizations that we fund and the programs that we're funding are speaking to our mission and that there are goals and objectives and accountability to those things. The other pieces, so then the other piece of that as well in the bill is that our regular annual audit that we currently perform through Morgan Jacoby will have additional requirements, reporting requirements, so we can expect that audit cost to go up and time to complete that audit to be a little bit longer. It is things like internal controls, employee, HR type reporting, salaries, benefits, those kinds of things, and that all of those processes are in place or policies are in place. And then looking at duplication and could what we do be more cost-effectively and efficiently done through another, combined with another local government, so your county commission or whomever. So that's what we expected. You're right, that was their purpose in bringing it forward at all. So so you have 9 months to complete it. Once it's there, it goes to a series of the Auditor General, the Department of Revenue. It goes in front of the House and the Senate, and they apparently, review the results of all of these audits, and it will be for all dependent and independent special districts, all the way down to mosquito control districts. So it will be a significant piece of work, I guess, only every 5 years, but the tracking will be looked at in the past 3 years. So when they do their 5-year review, they're going to look back at the last 5 years and do those comparisons. So anyway, that's where that sits, and so not successful in not passing that. So other than that, everything else was in my written report, so if there are other questions about that, that's all I have.
Any other questions? Okay. Hearing none. Do we have Dr. Chapa? Okay, so it'd just be on verbal? Okay.
Can you guys see me?
No.
Oh,
You,
Kate can-
oh, there we go. Okay. Welcome, Dr. Chapa. We appreciate you joining us today. So I'm just going to turn it over to you. Can you hear?
yes, I can.
Okay, there we go.
So did you guys want an introduction, or someone to do an introduction, or did you want me to just kind of?
No, I said that you are new to the Florida region here, coming down from Cleveland, and we welcome you here, and you're going to give us an update on what is going on with the maternal fetal medicine here in Florida, right?
Yes. So thank you. So I'm really excited to be down in Florida, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your group. I have been down here now for a little over 6 months, and we're trying to establish a practice for maternal fetal medicine, both in Indian River County and also with Martin Health in both St. Lucie County and Martin County. So I have some slides. I don't know, are you guys able to see them?
Yep,
Yes.
yes, we can.
We can move to the next slide. So before get too far in this, what exactly is maternal fetal medicine, and what is it that we do? Well, it's a subspecialty of obstetrics and gynecology, and it focuses on the diagnosis and treatment of expectant mothers and their unborn babies. So what we do, we provide care for women who are at increased risk for complications and problems during their pregnancy, and that can be due to a number of different reasons. Maternal illness is one, so chronic maternal illnesses, where mom has an underlying issue like hypertension or diabetes. Then we also have pregnancy-related complications that can occur, things like premature labor, and hypertension in pregnancy, something called preeclampsia, and then a number of fetal conditions, whether there be birth defects or some other process where we can determine that the fetus has a significant problem. We help to manage and treat those babies before birth and try to optimize their health for when they're born. So that's another part of what we do. Now, why is our specialty gaining increasing importance, in the whole spectrum of medicine? Well, one of the things, if you look at the chart to the right, it just shows maternal mortality in the United States. And this goes back over 30 years now, and this trend is actually continuing in the last few years, but you can see this kind of steady increase in maternal mortality. Now, this is in sharp contrast to other developed countries where the maternal mortality rate is actually flat or decreased. And in fact, of other developed countries, if you look in Europe, and our rates are are among the highest. So we clearly have issues, and a lot of it has to do with access to appropriate care. And that's kind of what my passion now in this stage of my career is really trying to provide access to patients who don't have care, who don't have that access immediately to specialty care. Next slide, please. So the objectives in me coming down to Florida really for the Cleveland Clinic and our hospitals is to provide, number one, provide maternal fetal medicine, or MFM, services for patients and obstetrical providers in this region, in the Treasure Coast area. Along with that, I'm also, beyond just the practice, I'm working with our providers, our physicians, the nurse practitioners, midwives, to work on trying to standardize and integrate our obstetrical practices across the Cleveland Clinic, Florida. So for us, that's Martin Health and Indian River. So we're trying to, and we'll talk more about this, in a subsequent slide. And then the other thing was to really establish a foundation for service line. If you can go back one slide, please. To establish the foundation for further service line growth. So for women's and children's services. And I think there's 500,000 people plus in this Treasure Coast 3-county area, and it's a growing population. And we have a real scarcity of subspecialty services for women and also for children. So for the complicated cases, most of these patients are having to travel either to Orlando or as far south as West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale. So there's a real opportunity here, and I think that it's very important, to kind of build this foundation. Next slide. So how do we do this? And obviously there's a medical part of it, but how do we, what is the approach that we try to take in trying to set up our practice? And I think the guiding principle is that we are really focused on driving value. So, and value, in a medical sense, is defined as quality or outcomes over cost. And I think that's really important. So to make something and to build a practice that's going to be sustainable and it's going to serve this area, for a long time, we have to be really conscious of delivering value to our patients. And, you know, and it doesn't necessarily mean, you know, you've heard that, that saying of you don't necessarily have to work harder, but you have to work smarter. A lot of that can be applied to what we're trying to do here in driving value. Another concept that's really important to our practice is what we call top of license practice, which means that, you know, we need our doctors to be dealing with the more acute and the higher level of cases, and we need to support them. Then in order to allow them to do that, we need to support them with advanced practitioners, nurse practitioners, nurse midwives, and then our nurses and medical assistants all need to, you know, practice at a high level, and a doctor shouldn't be doing something that probably a nurse practitioner or a midwife can handle in their practice. So it's that top of license practice which goes a long way. And all of this care should be integrated and really be a team-based approach, where we are working together to take care of this larger group of patients. And then the last concept is really that the care begins with the patient, and it's really patient-centered. It's not about a doctor and a particular physician or a particular provider and how they like to do things. It's really about what works best for our patients. And again, to have a model that's sustainable, you really have to have these principles, you know, in place. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about what we're going to do, you know, both on an outpatient and an inpatient level. As far as outpatient services, we do a lot of obstetrical ultrasound. I'm in the process of training sonographers at Indian River to do ultrasounds the way that we like them done. Also, we provide consultation to any of the providers with their patients as far as any complication, any questions that they have, and even the patients, you know, when they have concerns, we try to address them. For some of the more complicated patients, we will help and co-manage them. And then we are really working on trying to do more virtual consultations and remote reading of obstetrical ultrasound so that we can actually help patients, because they don't really have to actually be on site to provide a lot of these services. They can be done virtually. And that's an area that I'm actually working on, and I think has a lot of promise and is going to be a significant component of the future practice down here in Florida. Also, on the inpatient side, again, for some of our patients, we provide that they get admitted with complications. We can do some co-management. We can provide consultation over the telephone. And one of the things is, because of the resources that are limited for some of and this has been a problem that, you know, Dr. Fife and Dr. Bagay have been talking to me about for a number of months about, you know, where do we send some of the patients that we just don't have the facilities or the resources to take care of because of the high level of acuity. We're working on establishing relationships with facilities for patients, you know, that where we just don't have the expertise available locally and they need. So we're working with trying to find places so that we have a relationship where these patients can easily be transferred if they need to. And this is not a large number of patients, but these are a few patients. And these are the patients that are at highest risk for the adverse outcomes, for severe morbidity and for mortality. So it's very important that we have these relationships in place and that we can get patients where they need to go for the care that they need in a timely manner. Next slide, please. This is a big part of what I'm doing right now with our group at Indian River and the physicians at Martin. We're trying to establish protocols and guidelines for obstetrical care, again, that are evidence-based, but also that are going to work for our patients down here. And we are working with our local hospital leaderships to establish and refine some of our quality metrics, again, to track to try to track value that we're delivering to our patients. We're also working to expand relationship with other service lines who provide care for pregnant women. So one big area that needs to be done, 10% of our patients who are pregnant have some form of diabetes, whether it be gestational diabetes or pre-existing diabetes. And so having an endocrinology team that's available to help us manage with some of these patients is going to be very important in providing the optimal care for these patients. And then we're looking at trying to build a system-based approach to caring for this whole Treasure Coast area and development of a perinatal transfer service for some of the higher risk moms that will be based at Tradition initially. Because there are a little more in terms of resources, especially for neonatal services at Tradition. So for some of the premature babies that need to be delivered, we're trying to set that up so that when we identify those moms at risk, we can transfer them immediately to Tradition. Next slide. And then this, I think, is the important thing. As I spoke earlier, there is a real scarcity in women's and children's subspecialty care within this region with a rapidly growing population. I see the need every day. And I hear stories from patients about how far they have to go for services and things that probably a lot of it we can probably do locally. The NICU growth is one thing, which is a neonatal intensive care unit. To upgrade one of the NICUs in this area, we may do that at Tradition. To develop a level 3 facility so we can handle more cases here, and then bring in other women's and children's healthcare and subspecialties, whether it's OBGYN, so GYN oncology or gynecologic, which can deal with gynecologic cancer, other pediatric subspecialists, prenatal genetics, which is a field that's missing here in this area. And again, a lot of this can be done virtually, so we don't actually have to hire and bring people here. And that's again the idea of monitoring and being conscious of cost, but then providing that service here to help improve outcomes. And the last thing we're doing is really taking an approach to this here in Florida. The practice of medicine is very different here than what we have in Ohio. So we're really partnering with, I'm doing a lot of work with Florida Community Health, who takes care of a lot of our patients who have public assistance or Medicaid in the area, and that especially in St. Lucie and Martin counties. And they do, and we've been doing a lot of work with their patients and trying to help them care for some of their sicker patients and keep these patients who often don't have the means to travel outside of the area for specialty care, keep it local and make it easier for them and improve their care. So that's in a nutshell what I'm trying to do and some of the rationale behind it. I'll be happy to take any questions if you have any.
Yeah, Dr. Chopper, this is Alan Jones. Nice to see you at least digitally. A couple points. First, I failed to get a CV, so to give you a proper introduction, because you're really well qualified for this position, and I think the trustees should know a little bit more about your background, your education, and your previous roles before coming here to Florida.
Sure.
So I wonder if you'd spend a minute on that, and then I have one other thing I wanted to bring up.
Sure. So, I earned my medical degree at St. Louis University in St. Louis, and I trained in obstetrics and gynecology at Case Western in Cleveland, and then I did a fellowship, which is postgraduate training in maternal fetal medicine for 3 years at the University of Chicago. And I also did an additional year of training in genetics at the University of Chicago. And then I started with the Cleveland Clinic in 2007 as the section head of maternal fetal medicine. At the time, they'd had some problems, and all of their maternal fetal medicine specialists had left. And so I was granted the title of section head to be in charge of myself. And so over the course of the last 13 years, we really were able to grow our program and build a program which now has about 15 physicians, and we service about 13,000 deliveries in Northeast Ohio. We have offices, about 15 offices, and we even have an office now in a neighboring state of Pennsylvania. And so I did that for about 13 years, and just a lot of things changed, and I was looking for something different. I really got into the idea of outreach and providing access to patients and telehealth, and those are interests of mine. And I saw this opportunity down in Florida through the Cleveland Clinic, so I kind of jumped at it. And it's been very rewarding so far, and I really am excited about the future down here.
Yeah, thank you. In talking to some of the physicians at Partners, they're very excited to have you here. And that kind of gets me to the second point. Would you spend some time talking about the risk factors that you see in the patients here in Indian River County? And do you think that they're higher risk, at least many of them? And talk about maternal fetal medicine, about how we can mitigate against some of those risks.
Sure. So yes, I mean, I think that the population that we serve in Indian River County, obviously it's a diverse population, and it's very much a slice of America because you have people from many, many different backgrounds. But some of the things and the risk factors that we see probably maybe in higher frequency than we would in other areas. I think it starts, number one, the population, tends to be higher rates of obesity, which then is associated with higher rates of hypertension and diabetes. So those are very common comorbidities that we see. We also see substance abuse, particularly with opiates, and that's also a sizable problem here in Indian River County. I mean, those are just some of the things. The obstetrical population in general is also becoming an older population. In fact, if you look at the birth rates in the United States, the birth rate's actually kind of flat or declining. But the only area the one group that is increasing is patients who are 35 or over, and especially patients who are 40 and over who are having children. And a lot of that has to do with, women entering the workforce more and maybe putting off having children until they're established in their careers. And we see a lot more of this. And as you get older, there is a little bit higher risk for a lot of these complications as well. So it all kind of works together. But those are some of the things that we do see, and I think Indian River County, has, a good amount of all of those risk factors.
And how much time are you spending here now? Because you're rotating between the hospitals in Martin County and here, is that right?
Correct. So right now I spend half of my time in Ohio and half of my time in Florida. When I'm in Ohio, I actually do work. I do some remote reading of ultrasounds and here in Florida. Of the time that I'm in Florida, I'm in Indian River 2 days a week, but I read ultrasounds another 4 days a week. So usually I see, in a week that I'm here, usually we will see anywhere about 30 patients most weeks. But the plan is to kind of increase that to more of a night, where I spend the majority of my time in Florida or doing Florida-based activities, kind of scaling back on my practice in Ohio, and I'll be focusing more on this area, hopefully in the second half of the year. And we can look to continue to grow and build, and we are going to actively recruit to have another physician, hopefully join me and continue to build our program down here.
Okay, well, thank you very much for what you've done, so.
Absolutely.
Dr. Chapa?
Yes.
In all your discussions, I noticed there was one area that was kind of missing. I'd like to introduce, I'm Dr. Weiss, trustee of the district, but in a different light, I used to run a medical lab, and particularly doing oncofetal antigens and a lot of the original research in alpha-1 fetoprotein, which is very significant in conditions such as spina bifida and neural tube defects, which when detected in the fetus can be treated surgically, as Dr. Carson in the past has demonstrated amply. Are you going to establish a type of program using these biochemical methods to help in the diagnosis and treatment of these treatable diseases?
So a couple of things. We do have the diagnosis of neural tube defects and spina bifida. We still have that. We do screen with alpha fetoprotein now, but most of the cases are picked up during ultrasounds. Now we have a fetal surgeon who does these surgeries on babies before they're born. They do the surgery on the mother, and they open the uterus, and they're able to repair the defect in the fetus, and then put everything back together. And then it's been shown that if you repair these these lesions prior to the baby being born, the outcomes tend to be a little bit better. So we do actually have this program in Ohio, and ultimately, as we grow, we would like to have this type of program and these types of resources available to patients, in Florida here, so they wouldn't have to travel for it. But that type of thing requires a lot of other subspecialties and things going forward. So that is something that we're working on, and that's kind of more of a long-term goal to have an extension of our fetal therapy program down here.
I have a question. This is Mary Beth Cunningham. You talked about the recruitment, and I guess I'm wondering, is this something that in medical school and that is becoming more popular, or as the birth rate goes down, is this something that people are steering away from, therefore making recruiting much more difficult?
Well, that's a great question. In general, there's a shortage of doctors, and for a lot of fields. It's not just ours, but we are probably undersupplied in terms of maternal fetal medicine specialists. The other problem we have is that our physicians are concentrated often in urban areas. And so as you get away from really large cities and to these more mid-sized cities, often you don't have the same access to care, but the patients, and there's still a large number of patients. So there's a shortage, and recruitment can be a challenge, but we have the ability, using the Cleveland Clinic as as this great selling tool to help, recruit physicians to come and work with us, and then using some of the technology, and it's very easy to actually have a significant practice down here and spend some portion of your time, even if it's a physician who's lives somewhere else. So there's options like that. So like I said, we're looking, but our goal is to get a couple of people to come and be based down here and live in this area, and that's something that's going to hopefully occur in the next few months.
That's great. That's good. Any other questions for Dr. Chapa? Well,
Madam Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me? This is Dennis Saver.
Yes, Dennis, go ahead.
Hi, I'm a retired family physician and part of the We Care program. I really enjoyed what you had to say.
Thank
Things
you.
like the prenatal genetics would lend themselves well to telemedicine, but some other things that don't lend themselves well to telemedicine have issues related to volume and whether you can make the business case to do something based on the volume available. So I'm sure you're well aware of those sorts of things. And I wonder what your thoughts are about given the volumes of deliveries and the acuity of those deliveries, is the nursery at Cleveland Clinic Indian River really capable of taking care of sicker babies than they are now, or is that really going to be a transfer situation?
Well, so you have to think about it in terms of the population and you know, so right now, the nursery is probably not. It's more of a level 1 facility, and they have a gestational age limit of 35 weeks. So anything under 35, if a baby is born under 35 weeks gestation, the baby will be transferred out. So, you know, we sort of have to look at the whole area as to where we want to commit the higher level resources. Where's our, you know, where are we going to get the most for the money that we're going to spend that's going to serve the whole population, this Treasure Coast, the best when we decide how to allocate those resources. So I think that's something that's still going on. You know, that may be, you know, it's going to depend on the population, where's the highest concentration of deliveries, and where we can, you know, help. But a transfer, you know, within our system makes a lot of sense. I mean, we do that in Ohio, where we will transfer patients from one hospital to another in certain circumstances because of the higher level of care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chapa. We really appreciate, we're glad that you're here with us and working with us. We've had a high focus, particularly Alan Jones here has had a high focus on babies and the healthy babies. So, and everybody here is very concerned about it. So we're very glad to see that you are here with us. So,
No, very happy to be here. I'm really enjoying it. Thank you guys for having me speak to your group.
thank you. We look forward to seeing the results too.
Great, me too.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We'll move on to our funded agency reports, and Brett Hall, Mental Health Collaborative, you are up first.
Good evening. So Brett Hall with the Mental Health Collaborative and the McCabe Connection Center. We'll start with the Mental Health Collaborative. And as you know, the role of the collaborative is just to support mental health and mental health initiatives in Indian River County. So as you can imagine, it's been a little busy the past 6 months or so, just a little bit. So initially we started out, we do a therapist meeting where we pull all the individual clinicians together. We used to do every 2 months, and when this pandemic hit, we started going every 2 weeks. The therapists really needed support in changing and adapting and innovating into the changing world of what was coming in with teletherapy services, new consents, new ways, and case consultations. You know, as old therapists, I've been doing this a couple of years, you know, we learned how to do face-to-face therapy, and we didn't do telehealth services. So us old codgers had to learn how to, you know, read body cues and facial expressions and those, you know, that nonverbal communication via a video screen, and how to walk our patients, you know, and get them comfortable with those interventions. So we supported each other. We went to every 2 weeks, and that's been good. The same thing supporting the agencies on just a changing market, and really help pull information from not only local, what's happening in our community, but statewide and national. I participated in FEMA and the Department of Disaster Recovery. There is a mental health division of disaster recovery. Didn't know that until this happened, but now we learned that and pulled that information in. So, and then we worked really close with the United Way when the CARES Act dollars came in. They said, what can we do to help support mental health initiatives in the county? We got an unmet needs committee together. We meet every Friday afternoon. Did lots of first capital, helping agencies and individuals with capital on retrofitting their electronics to do telehealth services. But then we jumped into actually supporting the community, and we identified pretty early that our long-term care facilities were struggling. There was no visitation, and they couldn't even, the residents couldn't eat meals with their friends in the long-term care facilities. And remember when this started and we said, oh, we'll lock down for 4 weeks and then everything will be great? Remember that? Yeah, that was a year ago. So what we determined is we worked with long-term care facilities and said, hey, can we put a therapist in your facility to do whatever you want? Individual therapy, group therapy, with residents, with caretakers. We'll do support. We'll do whatever we can. Worked with several. We're supporting 5 long-term care facilities in the county, having a therapist there minimum 10 hours a month. And it's just been really great. It's been a really great outcome. Residents and the facilities are very happy. We supported our clinicians. We know we needed to prepare them for what is happening and what is yet to come. According to FEMA, the peak of psychiatric and psychological crisis is going to happen 12 to 18 months post-event. We are still mid-event, so we have a long time. We're preparing now, we're acting now, and preparing for what we know is going to be coming. So we know that we need to help our clinicians and our therapists and get them trained into specialized techniques. We trained 10 people in exposure and response prevention, which is an intervention for OCD and extreme anxiety. We trained 18 clinicians in EMDR therapy, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. We had 4 therapists in Indian River County prior to this training. Now we have 24. So we quadrupled that number. And EMDR therapy is very good for most things, but particularly trauma, longer-term trauma kinds of things. So, and with that, when we did that, we said if we pay for this training, which was about a $1,200–1,500 training per person, that they would provide at least 1 pro bono case per year. And then United Way and Johns Island bought the bilateral stimulation kits, which is the equipment that goes along with EMDR. So I said, if we give you equipment, you have to do another pro bono case. So I do a little arm twisting with our clinicians in town. So now I've turned into the de facto pro bono coordinator for people that call me that need EMDR pro bono, and then I hook them up with a therapist. So that's going really well. We've got 4 cases already in less than a month and less than 3 weeks into the pro bono work. And I'm carrying 2 of them, by the way. So, and then we trained over 60 clinicians in play therapy, so different interventions in working with children and youth. So that's been a really great initiative. And working with the therapist, I had 3 therapists that were retired, and when this happened, just felt the need to do something. We all felt that call during this period. So I had 3 therapists that were retired, called me and said, I'm willing to see people for free, telephone, whatever they're comfortable with. So we were able to take referrals in and get them into, retired clinicians. So that's good. And there's been an influx of new therapists in town. I mean, as y'all can probably tell from the stoplights, everybody's moving here right now. So, but there's several new therapists. And what's been really great with this whole being the central hub for mental health is I've had 3 calls from therapists that have moved in the last month that said, I was just calling around asking about what's happening. And they said, you need to talk to that Brett guy. So they called me, and we're helping them establish their practice and getting them the referral and giving them the ins and outs, because everybody is very, very busy, all clinicians in town. And every clinician in town has 5 job offers a week. So we're really trying to retain all the clinicians that we have here. So, and then also with the mental health literacy, mental health first aid, obviously. Taught mental health first aid. We had to go on a hiatus with quarantine. Mental health first aid is a evidence-based practice that did not have a virtual component. So we couldn't just adapt it ourselves because we'd lose the fidelity of the program and just offer it online. That is now, as of August of 2020, there is a virtual component. We started teaching mental health first aid again. We've trained 2 full classes, almost 60 people, and we have another one going tomorrow. And I'm happy to say we just secured funding to train 14 more instructors as mental health first aid instructors, and they will go forth and train another 1,200 residents in Indian River County every year, ongoing. Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. Also, with some of that CARES Act dollars, we did some public awareness. You might have heard some radio ads. Yeah, I was channeling my inner Barry White with some of those radio ads. They actually had me record some of those. So that's kind of what's going on with the collaborative. That is what's going on with the collaborative. The McCabe Connection Center continues to be very, very busy. The screening and referral service, we're seeing still 100, even more. The last 2 months have been 114, 117 patients per month, or community members per month. Very early on, what was very alarming to us is, on average, we see about 60% that we refer out for mental health services and about 40% for other things, substance use disorder, housing, transportation, vocational, whatever. That dropped to near zero for several months when the pandemic hit. Particularly April, May, June. July it started coming back. People were not taking care of their mental health as this pandemic started. People were not attending their appointments. They were not following up with their psychiatrists. Most of the time they were calling in prescription refills, but that was very alarming to us. That came back in July and then came back rebounding very fast. And what we've discovered now is people are back to attending to their mental health, but we are experiencing so many new people in town, not new people in town, people that have never, new people in town also, plus people that have never initiated a mental health service in their lives are now reaching out for help, which is a very good thing. But we're expanding the number of people needing mental health services at a faster rate than we're expanding our providers to provide those services. So we're walking that line and juggling those balls very carefully. We know that pre-pandemic, 1 in 5 people in the United States had symptoms requiring mental health treatment. That is now 2 in 5. So we're talking 40% of the population. And I know I've said this over and over, and everyone's tired of hearing me saying this, but the pandemic, this quarantine has affected every single person in some form or fashion. We've also seen, like I said, people that have never been in the system before. And we have a lot of new people moving to town that need to establish. So we're, working on a bunch of new people. And, I can tell you that people come to town and say, oh, I just moved in and I have a special needs child, and we need respite care and we need day programming and we need like a whole list of a dozen services they had in the state that they moved from. And I said, you're in Florida now. We don't do all that. That's where, it's not Vero Beach. It's a Florida thing. So it's been a lot of education on folks. And, or I'm here and I have Nebraska Medicaid, so who can I see? Well, you can't. Let's talk about that. So we have, what I'm saying is we have just an influx of people that are moving here that don't know the Florida system. So we're spending a lot of time educating them on what's happening. We expanded our hours to serve. We were working 8 hours a day. We expanded that to 13 hours a day. Didn't see the need at night, so we closed that down, but it's as busy as ever. Any questions? I'm trying to be thorough but brief.
Any questions?
Sounds like you got it covered.
I know you're a busy guy. You got a lot of stuff going.
It's good
Ads,
stuff.
the ads have moved up too in the middle of the front of the paper. I like it.
All right. And we have plans for more, so just you wait. It's going to get good.
And what'd we ever do without it?
Yeah.
And it's only going to get more so.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Good stuff.
Thank you for
you,
your time.
Brett.
Thank you, Brett.
You are in the middle of everything with that too. Randy, we have the Senior Collaborative. Randy Riley.
Okay. Good afternoon, I'm Randy Riley. I'm the Executive Director for Senior Collaborative Indian River County. We're still sort of the new kid on the block. We, just like the Mental Health Collaborative, we spun out of United Way and the United Way Incubation Center, and it was a thought process that occurred in about 2016, and Karen Deagle was very involved, and Michael Kent and myself and Peggy Cunningham to bring this through, actually to fruition. We started doing that in 2018. Am I up? Okay. Just want to go over some successes we've had very briefly. And this is all occurred in the last 6 months. We actually brought our telephone assessment and referral program online in December of 2020. And volume's been increasing as we go along. It was initially quite light. We are getting referrals from other providers. We've gotten referrals from United Way. The Sheriff's Department will occasionally refer. Occasionally, we trade referrals with the Mental Health Collaborative. So one of the things we did through the telephone assessment and referral program was we provided assistance for access to COVID vaccine wait lists, which it was for those seniors who did not have access to computers or did not have the capability of utilizing the computers they had. So that was a program. I'd just like to take a minute and have Abby Walters come up. This is not a program that you fund as far as Livable Indian River, but there are some things that are occurring with it that are very closely tied, intertwined with our navigation program. Abby?
Livable Indian River launched February 2020, and then everybody knows what happens after that. We go into COVID. The first phase of Livable Indian River is to do an assessment of the community. And one of the challenges that is, how do you do an assessment if you can't get out into the community and invite people? One of the things, and I have to say, if it weren't for Treasure Coast Community Health doing at vaccine sites, giving out our surveys, we've had more than 500. Actually, it's probably more like 800 now. And we've got 582 that are electronic. So we've got more than 1,200 surveys now. And so we have been able to get out into the community, and that's one of the really wonderful things about being able to do it through our collaborative members. The other thing that I think is important about the process is we've already gotten a hint about some of the domains to work on. There are 8 domains in the livable community. Community and health support services is one of the domains, and that's one of the ones we've already realized, along with housing and communication and information, that we're going to need to be working on. As of November, we've got a domain work group on community and health services. So we've already started the process of looking at where the gaps are in the community and where we might need to be doing an action plan, because one of the processes with Livable Indian River is on the domains that our community tells us are most important, that we need to do an action plan and follow it out as part of the 5-year process. The community and health services domain, we've got representatives from 10 organizations, and like I said, we've been meeting every month since November, and of course that's been remote. But
Can I ask you, how is
Yes.
that different than the health needs assessment that was done?
It's primarily about older adults. Even though a livable community, one of the expressions in livable communities, if it's good for an 8-year-old, it's going to, or an 80-year-old, it's going to be good for an 8-year-old. So when you have improvements in the community, it can make a difference. But primarily, what we're looking at is people 50 and over in terms of surveying. Whereas we also want to look at what the assessment did and any other assessments we have in the community. We're looking at those as well in terms of input. So we're not ignoring it, but we needed to also do an assessment and surveys to look at what older adults thought were the primary needs and concerns of the community.
And the hospital is just in the process of doing their needs assessment.
Okay?
And it's actually being run out of Cleveland, but Anne Marie and I have been involved with them in their needs assessment. And so making sure that all that information is shared and crossed, I think is really, really important, because we have a tendency in this community for little pockets to go off and do their own thing, and people are spending time and money duplicating activities. And so I guess I'm just very pleased, let's not duplicate things.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of stuff going on relative to all of that type of thing too, so.
Absolutely, and that's why Anne Marie is actually on the domain work group, because we don't want to ignore information that's already there. And if one of the challenges also that we're finding is sometimes when people report in surveys, because we haven't been able to do focus groups, sometimes people don't give additional information, and that's where one of the good things about the survey is we are getting some additional information from people in terms of comments, and that's helping us. But one of the challenges is, one of the issues is communication. People do not know where to find the information. So one of the things we want to do is make sure we do collaborate on all the different sources
That's good.
of information. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
All right.
We did update our strategic plan recently, and we have 3 new committees: marketing, sustainability, and the Connection Center Task Force. In the marketing committee, we have changed our domain name to Senior Services IRC. We looked at our brand and we thought it was important to make that change. We were being confused with Indian River State College and everybody who had an IRC kind of domain. We also have a new tagline called Your Source for Senior Solutions. You will see that in our advertising as we go forward. We developed a rack card, which I gave to you earlier today. That's in the process of being distributed. As of today, we have new ads running on WOSN 97.1. They are entirely for the navigation program. It was one of the things we had budgeted for this year to spend marketing dollars. We also have ads in Vero Sebastian News, both print and digital, that are starting this week, and I'll show you one of those shortly. We have been tracking the website usage with Google Analytics. We have had 1,600 users and 2,400 sessions over the last 6 months. That's without any marketing or outreach that has occurred yet. We also have the ability to obtain information through the database, and we can track where people are going within the database and what they're looking at down to each individual member. We have had 7,675 displays. We have had 2,505 accessed of individual member listings. And we have had we have the ability with each listing for individuals to actually go to the provider website. And we have had 99 of those over that period. This is the ad that we're currently running. We've created a sustainability committee to increase revenue with no additional dependence on grants. Some of this is going to be coming from member revenues. We have the capability of doing enhanced listings. Each member, we have a complimentary membership, and we provide each member with a complimentary listing. So this is an upgrade from that basic listing. We have the ability to sell banner ads. Whoops, sorry. And we can do newsletter ads. I gave you a copy of our latest newsletter as well. We are putting together sponsor packages at this point, and we're trying to create a unique event from a fundraising aspect. Similar maybe what MHA did with the turtles or TCCH does with the ducks, but trying to do something that doesn't compete with our members, but still helps fund what we're in the process of doing. The Connection Center, this is, from day one, we have talked about the navigation program having 3 parts. One being the database, the website database, the other being the telephone portion, and this is the in-person portion of that program. We anticipate having a case manager, library of provider materials, and touchscreens to access the database information. This is in the very early stages of planning. This group has met one time, and we're going to take very small steps as far as this is concerned and make sure that it's sustainable going forward. We're looking at this being a 2-year process. I'd like you to indulge me just a few more minutes, and I'd like to do a demonstration of the database, the website database. This is actually the homepage of it. These are the 9 domains that everything falls under. We have a news and events. The majority of the news and events for the last couple of months has been regarding COVID. We're now in the database itself when you connect senior services. On the top is actually a survey that we've created because Google Analytics does not provide information on ethnicity or income, and so we're trying to obtain that information through that survey. These are the banner ads that I talked about that are available. And again, you have the ability to go into this several ways. You can click on a domain and go in, and it will bring up everything within that domain. You can go into it alphabetically. Or you can also utilize keywords. And I'm just going to put a couple different ones in here. If you're looking for an assisted living facility, and there are the assisted living facilities within Indian River County. We also do recreation, so I'm going to do another one. Pickleball, which is very popular these days.
No pickleball.
Oops.
Maybe you spelled it wrong. Pickleball University, that's it.
That's how you spell it.
Worked earlier today.
I think you're still under assisted
Oh,
living.
Pocahontas.
Maybe
Oh.
go back
Yeah,
to the home
Pocahontas
page.
Park, Vero Beach, yeah.
Okay. And then here you have all the places where you can go play pickleball currently.
Oh, careful.
That's pretty much it as far as the database is concerned, but I think we've come a long ways in a short period of time.
Yeah, no, I think that's really impressive.
Very impressive.
And I think that's good. Yeah,
Thank you.
very good.
Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Questions or comments? I mean, I'm impressed at what you've gotten in a short amount of time. So
Thank you.
it's good.
I do want to say, because of course I'm involved with it, but I just want to make comment on how hard work Randy has put into this to make this happen. It just would not be where it is today without his efforts, and so I applaud you for that. And also the Board of Directors and the members. It has been a group effort to accomplish this and do it as quickly as we have, and so pleased that in a few short years we are where we're at, and so thank you. And I think that this is something that is wonderful for the senior community and their families, and so thank you.
There's 55,000 seniors in Indian River County right now, so there's definitely a need for what we're doing.
Definitely, and it's growing.
Yes. And we'll continue to.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Randy.
Pass there.
Next, we've got Pedro Barnaby from Phoenix Rising. Pedro, welcome.
having surgery, but I was here in the spirit.
Hopefully you're okay.
My clinical director came here last time, so I know he updated you guys as to what we have been doing, and sent you the report up to last month. Is there any questions? You want me to go over this, or how? This is my first time doing it, so I have no idea.
Just kind of give us a summary, Pedro, because there's folks that are listening on television and all that
Okay.
that don't necessarily have your information. So if you can give them a summary of what it is you're doing and how's it going.
Sure. Okay. So, well, thank you guys for giving us some funding to help indigent clients with substance abuse treatment. We have so far gone through a lot of different screening process to make sure that the clients that we accept and we build hospital district are the ones that are staying and completing the program. Those who we have accepted and have not completed, we don't send the bill to. We take it in as a scholarship, and we still help them get throughout to make sure that those tax dollars are best used for those people that are, actually continuing to throughout their treatment and throughout their recovery process. So far, we have done 26 screenings up until last month with the clients that have been accepted and completed the program. A total of 103 persons have called and for one reason or another have been referred out or are not do not meet ASAM criteria for one of our levels of care. We have referred 32 to to New Horizons, 47 to different treatments, such as Faith Farm. One of the things that I know that there's not specifics there, so with Misty, we talked to them like we have to figure out, we didn't have to in the past, but I think it's better to know where exactly we are sending those clients. So by the end of the year, those referrals will be, exactly tallied to whatever agency we'll work with. So in one of those two behavioral health centers, usually those, come to us back. They usually don't, we can't accept them right away. We need, to be cleared medically before they come to us. We've had 40 of those clients that were qualified for hospital district. Only 26, I think, were billed. Let's see here. Two clients of the ones that completed were qualified for readmission. They had a slip after those 90 days. They used for a very short period of time. However, through talking with them and them continue to get back into sober living, they are doing well right now. They didn't need any extra treatment from us. However, they do get an opportunity to come back for an additional 2 weeks at no cost to them or to the hospital district, but because we want to make sure that they are okay. We try to, through our alumni program, after they graduate, to continue to be in contact with them, and Misty and her team do a really great job as having different activities to do, different outings. We have usually food around there, and try to always maintain a sense of community with those, with everyone of our clients that come through us. So we've been able to help them, and once they do have a slip, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. You still have people that support you. So out of all the surveys, satisfaction surveys that have been completed, according to our data with Misty, 96% of them have been positive comments. We have here a quote from one of our clients. I was going to put more, but then I was trying to rush. Like I said, this is my first time doing it, so I wanted to make sure it got there on time. And this is, it says, my life change experience. If you ever fear the unknown, then you should know that people at Phoenix will help you fight that fear. I love each and every one of them behind the scenes. I feel myself becoming a new man, not getting back to my old self, but an entire motivation to myself. A phoenix myself rising from the ashes. I mean, I didn't write this, but he did. And one of the things that this person itself has done, within a short period of time, he was able to pay like a $7,000 fine of his license to get it reinstated. He's working, and is now in the process of trying to get back into the life of his children. We like to be there for them even way after they graduate from our program. We feel like the more that we become a community, the more the success that we'll see for the next person that comes into those doors. So we go back into the, so all of our clients have, 100% of them have met the ASAM criteria. The length of stay for what we were targeting so far for the year is 75% of completion. For hospital district clients, it has been 100% of those that have completed. Our target for clients that stay sober 90 days or after, we were targeting 70%. So far, 75% have been sober after those 90 days. But as I repeat myself from my previous statement, even if we kind of slip as not being sober after those 90 days, but they do get back up and they, continue their life and recovery. We don't let them just fall into the, the side. Our target for clients to go back to work was 90%. 95% of their clients have returned to work. 80% have remained at work over time. So we try to make sure that we follow through. Our case managers really great. We have our nonprofit. It's called Team Success, and through that we have partnerships with Salvation Army, with the Up Center also that has helped us, with them to volunteer there. The owner of Dunkin' Donuts for Onion River County, I think it's like 8 stores, something like that. She hires all of our clients too. Different people like Cumberland Farms also, and a few other places that we have commented and talked to them, and they are more than willing to hire people that come through our doors. So we also have now a mentorship program with the kids doing prevention work. I mean, it's a lot of things. Maybe this is not the time, but we are also, this month, we got our Joint Commission accreditation, so we are very happy to have that also.
Remind me again, alcohol and drugs or just alcohol?
Alcohol and drugs, yes.
And drugs.
Yeah, any type of substance. I mean, we've got people that have been doing the spray cans, like dusters they call.
Right.
I mean, things like that, mushrooms, all kinds of.
Pedro, a lot of these people have additional health problems.
Correct.
So your ability to get help through TCCH or whole family, does that work for you?
Oh, it's great.
Yes.
We did.
It's very important.
Yes, we get them started with us. I mean, after detox, we have 2 ARMPs and we have a medical doctor.
Right.
We set them up with TCCH, as soon as possible to get that follow-up after they leave our treatment. So TCCH and Mental Health Association is, we set them up even with, if they don't have a therapist available at TCCH, the Mental Health Association will have a therapist, and then we'll have the medical and the mental health side addressed after for the outpatient side of it. Yeah.
Do you have enough case managing to follow these people? It's
one,
tough.
It's one person, but my God, he's good.
It's tough. It's very important, though, because the success rate sometimes is the percentage falling is pretty high. But I think that being able to, the alumni portion and the case management is so very important, so they feel they have a family to go back to and refer back to.
I mean, it's extremely important for them.
Right.
We go to what do they need first. You can't really teach them if they're hungry. You can't really get to them if they need something else, if they have legal problems. So we want to make sure that we encompass all of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good for you for what you're doing.
Any other questions for Pedro? Good for you. Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
much needed here.
Thank you, Pedro.
Thank you.
Missy.
Any unfinished business from the trustees? Okay, we do have new business. We have Warren Fuller here and Dr. Mackett from the hospital. It's your turn. Last but not least.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm Dr. Chuck Mackett, the Chief of Staff at Cleveland Clinic Indian River Hospital and the President of Indian River Medical Associates, and I'm joined tonight by Mr. Warren Fuller, our Chief Financial Officer, and I'm so happy to hear about all the great things that our fellow agencies are doing, but fearing that I may be what's standing between you and dinner, I'll be very brief. Cleveland Clinic Indian River Hospital is requesting supplemental funding to the current budget. We're requesting $300,000 additional dollars to help us cover the shortfall to plan related to COVID-19 over the past 5 months. We have experienced a decrement of 25% of GYN visits, gynecologic visits, that we had planned for. And of our scheduled patients in both OB/GYN and gynecology, we experienced a 10% cancellation rate because of COVID. I will now turn the podium over to Mr. Warren Fuller to discuss some of the financial numbers in detail.
Thank you, Dr. Good evening, everyone. We did submit a request to you that's in your packet to kind of give you the financial background. He covered most of it's a volume challenge right now. For the first 5 months, we are off of budget by $450,000. And we're off it last year by $400,000. So we anticipate some of that to improve the remaining 7 months of the year by September. And we can close the gap, we think, from 450 down to about 360,000. So we're asking the trustees to supplement 300,000 of that difference. That's our projection. So,
Just a question.
Yeah.
In looking at the 2021-22 budget, you are requesting the same amount as what you requested this year, what's been a consistent amount over the years. So you're expecting that the volume, are you seeing that that volume is coming back so that you're comfortable that next year is going to be at that level?
we're not comfortable.
Okay, I'm glad I asked.
We budget optimistically and hope for the best. With what's going on now, I think nobody really knows how it's going to turn out, quite frankly. We do have some headwinds. It's a great question, actually. Right now, the state is going through their budget session, and right now we're hearing a 9% reduction on Medicaid payments. So that's going to translate into over $100,000.
That hardly pays from.
Across the board.
Goes from
It could be more or less. It could be more. We just don't know yet. Yeah. So it's going to be the budget requested is going to be a challenge. Yes, for 2022.
Okay. I just kind of wanted to get that out there because I am aware of the Medicare cut that they're talking about, and it's
Medicare or Medicaid?
Medicaid.
Medicaid.
Yeah.
But it's significant, and it's troubling.
Quite significant.
Very troubling. Okay, you're requesting $300,000 for this year.
Supplemental funding for 2021.
So the first question is to the treasurer, which is, we do have the money available.
As reported earlier, yeah.
Sound financial.
This is why we have it.
I wanted to get that on the record, that we do have that good. So can I hear a motion to support the $300,000?
I would so move.
And I'll second that.
Okay. And any other discussion?
I'd just like to make one comment. This is what we planned upon for when we set up our reserves. We foresaw this type of situation. And it's impossible to run a hospital with Medicaid constantly giving you nothing. Soon they'll expect you to pay them to have the privilege of doing it. But thank you very much, Chuck and Dr. Mackett. And I'm sure the money will be well spent on our patients.
All right, so I will take a vote here. So Barbara?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Anne
Yes.
Marie? Carrie, your first vote.
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes, so thank you.
We thank the district trustees for their support this year and throughout the past. So
Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Keep up the
Thank
good
you.
work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other business? Trustees, any public comment? Any other public comment? Anybody on Zoom comment? Nothing comment? With that, we will adjourn. Thank you very much, everybody.